Ever blasted Bittersweet Symphony after like a really rough breakup?
You know the Verve, right?
Yeah,
They knew how to tap into raw emotion, you know? But their story, man, it's so much bigger than just that one song.
it really is, yeah.
So get ready to deep dive into the world of the Verve.
A band that's, yeah, synonymous with 90s Britpop for sure, but with a sound that's totally their own.
Definitely.
I mean, we're talking epic, soaring anthems, the kind that just grab you.
Huge anthems.
But then those quieter, more reflective songs, the ones that get under your skin. The Verve had it all.
Yeah, they did.
And to help us unpack it all, from their early days in a little town called Wigan to becoming, like, Britpop royalty, we've got a music historian with us who knows this era like they lived it.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So rewind with me to 1989. Four guys from Wigan, which, fun fact, is more known for rugby than rock and roll, right?
Right.
They decide to start a band. What sparked that fire, that initial urge to make music together?
What's interesting is their early stuff wasn't really Britpop at all.
No.
It was more like, imagine if Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon had a baby with like a sensory deprivation tank.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's the vibe they were going for on their first album, A Storm in Heaven.
Really different.
Super into shoegaze bands like
Oh.
My Bloody Valentine, all hazy guitars and otherworldly soundscapes.
But even with all those layers of sound, Richard Ashcroft's lyrics always manage to cut through.
Oh, absolutely.
There's this real depth, this way of capturing those kind of like bare, honest emotions that everyone feels.
Totally. Ashcroft was wrestling with some big questions even then. Love, loss, addiction, trying to find meaning in a world that often feels totally meaningless.
Yeah.
And that resonated, especially with people who wanted more than just a catchy chorus, you know?
So A Storm in Heaven, it got amazing reviews, right?
It did.
But it didn't exactly turn them into superstars overnight.
True. I mean, the mainstream wasn't quite ready for that big, sometimes challenging sound.
Yeah, I can see that.
But it did gain them a really devoted following. People who appreciated that they were willing to experiment, you know?
Which leads us to their second album, A Northern Soul.
Yeah.
Even just the title, it feels like a shift, like they're heading in a different direction.
Was that deliberate? Did they consciously tone down the psychedelic stuff and go for something raw, more vulnerable?
A Northern Soul was intense.
How so?
The band was under pressure, there were internal conflicts, and frankly, some personal demons were coming out in the music.
Wow.
And musically, yeah, they were definitely exploring new ground. Less trippy psychedelia, more of those soulful ballads.
Right.
History on your own, songs that felt emotionally bare. Yeah.
You can just feel the tension, the rawness in every note. It's like this album was forged in fire, you know?
It's a band right on the edge, musically and emotionally. And that vulnerability, that rawness, that's part of what makes A Northern Soul so captivating, even now.
I can hear that. It's such a powerful album, so raw and honest.
It is.
But even with all of that, it wasn't exactly smooth sailing for them, was it?
No, not really.
They broke up right after A Northern Soul came out.
Yeah, it's one of those, I don't know, those bittersweet stories in music, you know?
Yeah.
A Northern Soul got them critical acclaim, a much bigger following.
Right.
But it definitely came at a price. The pressure, the band dynamics, I don't think they were quite equipped to handle it all at that point.
That makes sense. But, like, they couldn't stay apart forever, right?
Nope.
1997, the Verve is back. But with a twist, right? No Nick McCabe.
Yeah.
At least not at first. How did his absence impact their sound, their writing process?
Imagine trying to bake a cake, but like without a key ingredient.
Yeah.
That's what it was like. McCabe's guitar is such a core part of the Verve's sound, their whole identity.
I can hear that.
They brought in Simon Tong. He'd actually toured with them before.
Okay.
And they even started recording with Owen Morris, the producer from A Northern Soul.
So what happened? How did McCabe end up coming back into the picture?
I think Ashcroft realized that to really capture what the Verve was all about, McCabe had to be there.
Yeah.
So he convinced him to rejoin. And then they made another pretty big decision.
Okay, what's that?
They brought in Youth.
Youth, as in the producer, Youth.
The one and only.
Wow, that's a pretty different vibe from Owen Morris.
It is, yeah.
What did he bring to the table? Like, how did he change things for them?
Well, Youth had this structured, almost disciplined approach to recording.
Okay.
which was a stark contrast to the more chaotic energy of their earlier stuff, you know?
Yeah.
He really pushed Ashcroft as a songwriter, encouraged them to go for a bigger, more classic rock sound.
And that's where Urban Hymns was born.
Exactly.
And that album, man, it wasn't just an album.
It was a moment.
It was a whole cultural moment for sure.
For sure.
Let's talk about Bittersweet Symphony.
Iconic.
That opening track, the strings, Ashcroft's vocals.
Get you right.
It just explodes out of the speakers. What do you think it was about that song that resonated with so many people?
It's like this perfectly crafted blend of sounds, you know?
Yeah.
You've got that orchestral loop, instantly recognizable. It's a sample from an Andrew Oldham orchestra version of the Rolling Stones' The Last Time.
Oh, wow.
And then you've got Ashcroft's voice soaring over the top of it all, singing about how life is bittersweet, about searching for something more. It's melancholic and euphoric at the same time.
And of course, we can't talk about Bittersweet Symphony without mentioning the legal battle over that sample.
Right.
Talk about irony. A song all about how happiness is fleeting gets caught up in this legal battle that dragged on for years.
It's pretty ironic when you put it like that.
Alan Klein, he's the one who controlled the rights to that Rolling Stones sample.
Yeah.
He ended up with the songwriting credit, and, I mean, let's be real, a pretty hefty chunk of the royalties, too.
A classic case of can't always get what you want, I guess.
You said it. But even with all of that, Bittersweet Symphony became an anthem.
Huge.
It went way beyond Britpop. It was a global phenomenon.
Absolutely. It just goes to show how powerful that song is. Even with the legal stuff, it still hits people right in the feels.
But Urban Hymns is more than just that one song, right? I mean, it's packed with amazing tracks.
Oh, absolutely. It's an album you can really get lost in.
Yeah.
Every song is like a different side of the Verve.
Totally.
You want that raw, vulnerable feeling.
Yeah.
Listen to The Drugs Don't Work.
Hits hard.
Lucky Man. That's one that'll make you think about, searching for something better.
It does.
And then there's Sonnet. Pure poetry, that one. Ashcroft's lyrics are just something else.
He's such a talented lyricist.
He is.
You can really hear how much they'd evolved since A Northern Soul, musically, lyrically, the whole package.
It's like they found their stride. Everything just clicked on Urban Hymns. Ashcroft's writing is top-notch. McCabe's guitar is, I don't know, it's like he's painting these soundscapes. And that classic Verve sound, that mix of psychedelic and soulful, it's all there.
It's no wonder Urban Hymns became like one of the biggest albums ever in the UK.
It's massive.
It was more than just an album. It really felt like the soundtrack to a generation trying to figure things out.
Definitely. A lot of change happening in the world back then.
For sure. But even with all that success, it's like the Verve just couldn't escape those ups and downs.
Yeah.
They broke up again.
They did. Success can be a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
The pressure, the expectations, being on the road constantly, it takes a toll.
Yeah, it's gotta be tough.
And for the Verve, those old tensions, the creative clashes, it all just bubbled up again.
So 1999, right when they're on top of the world,
At the peak,
the Verve is over again.
it happens. There were rumors about what really caused it.
What have you heard?
Ashcroft and McCabe, butting heads, being burnt out from touring. Just, I don't know, the weight of it all,
Yeah, I get it.
Whatever the reason, it was tough for a lot of fans. People thought maybe this time they'd make it work,
They did get back together briefly in 2007, right?
They did.
Even released Fourth, which, I don't know, it just felt different.
It did.
Like they were trying to recapture something that was gone.
You can't step in the same river twice,
Yeah.
The magic of that time, that specific group of guys, it had faded.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But we'll always have Urban Hymns, right?
Always.
It was a turning point, not just for the Verve, but for Britpop as a whole.
It's true. Think about it. Early Britpop, it was all about being young and British and optimistic.
Right.
But by the late 90s, things were shifting.
Yeah.
There was this darkness